My father's name was Patrick Joseph Forde. For the first time in 22 years, I got to work with cement today. 22 years. I got to do so many things with so many different tools that I haven't used in such a long time. Tools that I spent years with my dad on building sites as a young man, a young boy, 13, 14, 15 years of age. And it was such a phenomenal time. And today that just brought it all back to me. You know, when I think back to the last 9, 10 weeks, and never did I think that I'd witness something of this magnitude in my life. I think to all those people that are boxed up and locked away and don't even have a chance to get their space, and how hard that it is. Luckily for me, I've been coming to here for the last number of weeks, coming to these woods. They've allowed me to just rest, recalibrate, and just take in nature. When I look to a lake down the road, there was 2 beautiful ducks, and then a few days later they had 6 beautiful ducklings. Jesus, they were amazing. And now 8, 9 weeks on, nature's taken 2. And what it taught me was that nature decides all things. Nature moves on, nature decides all things. And that's why I'm talking here today, because I think back to just over a year ago I lost my dad, and how hard that was for me and my family at the time. And what I can only describe was on that day he passed, and the funeral process was it was such a real experience. Never before have I experienced anything like that before. And why that was because it was, I was so present. I was so there in the moment, and I allowed myself every emotion possible. Every time I got upset, you know, tears came, and they came hard. But I allowed myself that, whether I was standing in front of a priest and standing in front of my own son, standing in front of my wife, in front of my family. And that was such an empowering experience, because when I look back to my relationship with my dad, it was, you know, it wasn't always rosy, but those times as a young man going to work with him, there were amazing times. You know, mother would pack lunch bag in the morning, she'd pass a flask of tea, ham and cheese sandwich wrapped up in the waxy bread liner, a couple of boiled eggs, and we were off to work. And there I am going with my dad, and my dad was my absolute hero. Jumping in the car, lucky enough to get the car started in the morning. We were lucky to even have a car. And then off we'd go to work, and he'd stick on some country and western music, and I'd be thinking, Jesus, do I have to be listening to this stuff again? Like, I thought it was hardcore. And here I am now today doing the same thing, listening to country western music, and the parables and the tales that music holds was so powerful. They told 1,000 stories, and it was a way my dad communicated with me. He was a quiet man, not a man of many words, but looking back, it showed me, you know, where he was and himself. So we'd get to work, we'd work really hard, you know, get up to 10 o'clock, and then all of a sudden we'd get that chance to go in and sit on a block, sit on a concrete block, pull out the flask and the tea, and, you know, hunger is the best sauce. It was amazing, those sandwiches, and just to look at the man's face, just to look at, it wouldn't be, you know, it was looking at his hands and the graft on his hands, the cuts and the dryness. And I did a day's graft today, and how irritated and agitated and dry my hands are. He did that for 50 years of his life for us. And I thought, wow, what a man. So when the day came when he passed away, it was a very sad time, you know, that sense of bereavement, that sense of loss, that sense of grief. And when he did pass, it just brought me back into those places. It brought me back into those different spaces within myself, those fleeting pockets. And oftentimes I didn't know my dad. I felt I didn't know him fully, who he really was. And that was difficult. I only knew parts of the man. And when I think to the fun times, you know, when they were sweet, as I said, those tears were sweet. When those tears run down my face, it rolled back me to those fleeting moments that I could grasp onto. Myself and my mate coming home from school one day, and the night before he's told us that he's getting a new car. We never had a car. We just had cars that were just about roadworthy. And next thing he said, you know, I'm going to get this car. And we thought, yeah, grand, you're going to get this car. Happy days. So we come home from school, we come around the corner, about half a mile up the road, I see a Navy car in the driveway, and I turned to my friend Ryan and I say, geez, the old fella's got a new car. Geez, that's amazing. So next thing we get a bit closer, and we can see his head bobbing up and down, weaving. And as we get closer around the side of the car, he pops his head up, and the car is two-tone. It's the previous red colour and the navy. And the fag hanging off his lip, just clinging for dear life to his lip. And he said, "You like my new car?" He was actually painting the car, hand painting it. And I thought that was amazing. I thought, wow, like I've been all around the world. I've been to India, South America, you name it, Azerbaijan, places like this. Never once have I ever seen a hand painted car, and it was unique. And I just walked into the house and I just thought, wow, my dad's an absolute lunatic. And oftentimes I wonder where I got my lunacy from. So when I think of those times, they were brilliant. And then I look back to the times where, you know, traveling away to the UK, and as our relationship separated and distanced. And that was a really difficult time. That was such a hard time for me. But over the years, and over the last, 10 years at least, I've gone on that journey of, healing that relationship, mending that relationship, trying to repair that relationship with my dad. I made that choice that I didn't want to have any regrets. And thankfully it did, because it allowed me to have that experience with my dad before he passed. And now on that day, it gave us an opportunity and a great chance to honour him and honour his life for who he actually was, for the graft he put in, for the hard work he put in. And within that periods of healing, it really allowed me to understand, to have deep compassion and empathy, because all the times I was seeing my father through my lens, seeing him through my eyes, how I wanted him to be. I never fully understood him. I never fully accepted him, who he actually was and who that man actually was for him. So when I did that, that changed games. It changed my whole relationship with my father, changed all relationships with men, how I conduct myself in certain situations. That frustration, that anger, that bitterness, that resentment was gone. So now I could see him for who he was, and totally embrace everything that he's done for me and my family, and I'll be forever grateful. And now it's my turn. Now, years on, and my own son, and trying to build that relationship with him for years, traveling around the world, playing football, whether it was stadiums in the UK, stadiums in Ireland, stadiums in Europe, across the continents, wherever it was. And a lot of times I may have been absent and not there. And that was difficult. And then when I looked at the times I actually was there, I wasn't fully present. I wasn't fully with my son. I was so bombarded with, all the games that are coming up, whatever I have to do on the pitch. I was so focused on that oftentimes I neglected our relationship and giving him my full energy, giving him that unconditional support, and giving him that confidence. So now it's my turn. And the best way I can honour my father, the best way I can honour my line of people, is to bring that to my son, to give him every opportunity. So I totally understand for all the people out there that don't have their fathers. I totally understand that, and it's hard. But if you get the opportunity, for the ones that do have their dads, make that man a cup of tea. Explore the man. Question him, inquire him, discover him. I just wish I had my dad today, that I could go into those parts of his soul and understand where he was and the journey he had. I only got certain parts of it. I want to have that experience with my son where he gets the whole of me, every part of me, nothing hidden. And certainly over this time, there's a lot hidden, a lot elephants left in the room in households, a lot said and unsaid. So it's been giving me a great opportunity to deepen my bond with my wife, my daughters, and especially my son. And at the end of the day, last time I did see my father, I kissed him on the forehead and I said, "Thanks a million, Dad, for everything you've done for me. You did your best." And that's all we can do in any situation. So I'd like to say, I have you in my heart, I have you in my mind, and I'd just like to say, go out there, enjoy your father, enjoy him while you have him there. And for the ones that don't, go and make him a cup of tea too. Go and have a chat with the man, and you'll be surprised. So I'd just like to say, Happy Father's Day, Gura Míle Maith agat, Slán go fóill.